A political earthquake shook America on November 8, 2016. The tremor was felt around the world. Billionaire businessman Donald J. Trump defeated Hillary Clinton, the Queen of Sleaze, and won the presidency of the United States of America against all odds. It was the dirtiest, nastiest, and most divisive election since Abraham Lincoln won the White House in 1860. Mr. Trump won the election with the overwhelming support of American evangelical Christian voters. But despite the enthusiasm of rank-and-file church members, few evangelical Christian leaders publicly endorsed him.
Okay, so just to kind of look back at that, evangelicals have been credited with putting Donald Trump in the White House. And as a result of that, non-believers and believers that know that Donald Trump is evil are looking at people and Christians like Rick Wiles with derision. I have a strong resentment toward every Christian that was stupid enough to vote for that was stupid enough to vote for Donald Trump. I really do have deep resentment that I have to pray about on a constant basis. And the fact that he's still pointing fingers at people who had sense enough not to vote for Donald Trump. And now he's pointing fingers at people who still support Donald Trump. But you know who he ain't pointing fingers at? Himself.
Surprising number of them openly protested his nomination, but he won anyway. 14 months later, many evangelical Christian pastors and theologians are still withholding their support from President Trump. Apparently, they would prefer crooked Hillary and her band of thieves to be in the White House. Well, several weeks ago, I was in Davos.
Donald Trump has a whole administration full of swamp creatures. They're some of the biggest crooks on the planet, and they're polluting the planet while they're robbing us. They're picking our pockets clean.
To cover President Trump's speech at the World Economic Forum. And I was fortunate to capture video on my iPhone of President Trump arriving in the main building. Now, when President Trump arrived on the second floor, he was greeted by a woman who handed him a copy of Steve Strang's book, God and Trump. You probably saw this picture in the news or on social media. I sent a text to Steve the next day alerting him that President Trump waved the book to the crowd of globalists at the World Economic Forum. Watch this video. Here's a trailer about the book, God and Trump.
Many call President Donald Trump's election a miraculous win, but was his election as President of the United States an actual answer to prayer? What was the spiritual dimension, if any? In his new book, God and Donald Trump, author Stephen E. Strang explores President Trump's miraculous victory and what it means for the future of our republic. This is the story behind a divine plan, a grassroots voter uprising, and a miraculous victory no one expected. A first-person account of one of the most contentious elections in American history. It offers a penetrating look at the factors that shaped Donald Trump's character and worldview. How openness to spiritual leaders helped build his commitment to religious liberty, and how he captured the largest evangelical vote in American history to win the Electoral College. The Honorable Michelle Bachmann. Everyone is curious about the topic of God and Donald Trump. I'm confident you'll be pleased by what you read. Todd Starnes' Fox News Channel says, God and Donald Trump may very well be one of the most important books about the Trump presidency. Dr. Robert Jeffress, senior pastor, First Baptist Church, Dallas, said, God and Donald Trump is a well-written, much-needed look at the undeniable hand of God working in our nation's most recent presidential election. It will restore your hope. And Dr. Elvita King, niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., praises God and Donald Trump. This must-read book reaches far beyond politics into the redeeming frequencies that America surely needs. God and Donald Trump by Stephen E. Strang is a powerful account with behind-the-scenes exclusives and insightful commentary from Christian leaders, including those who prophesied before the election that God had raised up Donald Trump to lead the nation through a time of crisis. God and Donald Trump, published by Frontline, released in bookstores and online at godanddonaldtrumpbook.com.
So Steve Strang, the founder and CEO of Charisma Media.
I don't know what's happening, guys. Hold on.
And the author of the book, God and Trump, is here with me today to talk about the book, God and Trump. Steve, hey, glad to have you here at True News.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
Hey, you know, I sent you a text from Davos alerting you, and I didn't know if you had seen the photograph, but when did you first become aware that President Trump held your book up at Davos?
You know, I was sitting in church and felt my phone vibrate.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm just too curious. I had to look.
Right.
And somebody had posted the picture on Amazon. It was one of the pictures, you know, there were several pictures. And my first reaction was this photoshopped? You know, I mean, we had no idea. I didn't even know my book was in Switzerland. And yet he held it up, and it was great publicity and a real honor.
And not only that, and I don't know who the woman was who handed in the book, but obviously she was a delegate to Davos, which means she has to be of some high-level important person to be invited to Davos.
And she must believe in the premise of the book, or she wouldn't have bothered to give it to him.
That's right. So it was quite a surprise to see him holding that book up and waving it around to a group of globalists who were not quite sure what to make of Donald Trump at Davos. You know, I said to the crowd there, and I said it very loud. I made sure everybody heard me. I said, this is a lot of attention for the man you hate. Because for days, all I heard was contempt for Donald Trump. And yet, when he showed up, everybody's waiting for it. All right, they couldn't remember the names of the other kings and presidents and prime ministers that were there in the crowd. They just disappeared. Everybody.
And if Rick Wiles doesn't have contempt for Donald Trump, then that just continues to prove what I'm saying about him. I mean, as much as they cried and whined and complained about Barack Hussein Obama, you mean to tell me that you can't muster up some kind of fury and anger and indignation against Trump? Yeah, so continuing on.
To see the man that they hated. And I just found that ironical. It's like, all you globalists here, you know, you despise the man, and yet you're standing here in awe, waiting on him to arrive.
I know it showed a lot of respect, didn't it?
It did.
And it shows, I think, that they recognize that he's a real leader.
Yeah.
And that there's something special about him, even though he is not your typical evangelical Christian, as I go into, of course, in the...
Donald Trump is not an evangelical Christian. He's not a follower of Jesus Christ. And this is the other thing about white Christians that make me sick, because they perpetuated this. As long as somebody says Jesus, then as long as somebody white says Jesus, that they accept that this person knows Jesus, whether they actually really know him or not. And I say white because Obama said that he knew Jesus. And them jokers still call him a Muslim. They still won't give him credit for knowing anything, you know, about Jesus. But Donald Trump hints that he knows Jesus, and they've already made him a born-again Christian. It's so stark. It is so stark.
That's right.
But Hillary Clinton wrote a book that said what happened. And my book, God and Donald Trump, answers that question. And it's that millions of people were praying that God would somehow shift things in our country. And God answered us in a way that we did not expect, with a person we didn't even necessarily like until we got to know him, and to see that, he's very sincere. I think he's really trying to follow God the best he can, even though he...
And see, that kind of stuff makes Christians sound like the biggest joke. Donald Trump is not trying to follow Jesus. He doesn't care anything about Jesus. And the fact that this supposed intellectual, this man has sat down and wrote a book, and he thinks that Donald Trump is doing the best he can to be obedient and follow the tenets of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, then that stuff like that tells me that people don't know who the Lord is. I mean, you're just talking. And white Christians have lost their witness. I don't believe Rick Wiles knows who Jesus is. There's nothing that has come out of his mouth that will make me believe that.
Said is no choir boy.
Yeah. 14 months later, world leaders are still scratching their heads. They're still trying to figure out how Donald Trump got in the White House, why their darling Hillary Clinton isn't there. They just can't believe it. I mean, hey, the election was rigged in their mind. Of course she was going to win. All right? How could she not win a rigged election? And yet, Donald Trump is there. How do you explain it?
The election was rigged, Rick Wiles. This is how stupid he is. He still hasn't really fleshed out what happened with Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels. And he sits up and calls Stormy Daniels a porn star. But if she hadn't stood up and told us the truth about what happened with her and Donald Trump, he wouldn't be individual one today. Donald Trump is an unindicted co-conspirator in that mess that, again, Michael Cohen is sitting in jail for it. And you still can't get Rick Wiles to make that necessary connection. So I'll be back with more information.
Finish up strong. Would you tell your dad that True News loves your dad, and we always give him a fair shake? I'll do that, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Kerry Kinsey here for True News in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with Donald Trump Jr. Wow, how about that?
True News loves Donald Trump. Continuing on.
I mean, they're on a first-name basis with me now. The White House, wow, and they're saying, hey, Doc, we need this information so we can get Edward put into the system and everything. And so it's no longer, you need to do this.
Sorry about the sound.
Relationships are the key to your future.
Oh, the sound is so messed up. But the link will be in the description box. Oh, this is horrible sound.
And try to make...
I don't know what I did here. I apologize so much. Hold on, let me pause.